And we want to hear Joe and the Juice story.
So, Joe and the Juice is a Denmark-based company. We're in 14 countries. We have about, I think, 212 stores now worldwide. We are a nutrition-based.
Incredible. I mean,
Yeah,
let's talk about that.
it's
From
insane.
one store in Copenhagen to now 15 years later, 14 countries, 212 locations.
Yeah, worldwide.
It is like a global fad at
Yeah,
this
we're
point.
juicers all over the country. It's really cool because like I have friends in other countries that we've just met by both being juicers and just connected through our ethic groups. Where we have the same job, we have the same ethic, same passion, same creativeness.
But I got to meet this guy, Joe. Who is this guy?
Joe is, everyone makes this mistake. And Joe is for coffee. It's coffee and juice. That's what we're all about.
I'm joking, but yeah.
And right now we have a special glimpse of the West Hollywood location on Melrose.
Right. That's one of it's actually our first LA locations. We have 3 more opening in the area. It's a smaller store compared to some of ours in San Francisco. I actually work in San Francisco. That's my home. I'm from LA though. But yeah, so we're trying to push now our LA markets and our San Diego
So we
markets.
went there yesterday.
Right, yeah,
We had a
actually met
great
you guys there,
time.
yeah.
We walked in. I'd never been there ever.
Oh, really?
And it's aesthetically gorgeous.
Yeah.
Everything was, it just was so LA, honestly.
Yeah.
It was
I mean,
so LA.
even the art on the wall, the branding. I mean, it seems like there's such purpose behind it.
Yeah, it's I've only been with the company since April, and when I was first introduced to the company, I was brought into a store in San Francisco, and it's twice the size of that Melrose store.
really?
And I was just blown away. The music, the ambience, the vibe. I couldn't tell who was working there and who was just this cool person, people that are in the store because we don't wear uniforms. So
No, you're all so cool.
Yeah.
When you came up, I was like, does this guy work there? You're too cool.
So what do they have to do to get you, like, you're a true, like, you're an advocate, right? So you guys live in corporate housing, is that correct?
yes, so because we're expanding into a new market, which is America, we set up corporate housing for our elite juicers that are going to open up a market. So our elite juicers are people that are passionate about the company. They have huge ambience. They're very community focused type people. We love giving back. We actually have a program where we sponsor kids in Benin, which is in West Africa.
Oh, cool.
Every store we open, we sponsor a kid. So we're very, very community based. We build families in our stores.
It's
we
truly
have
like
similar
a
people here.
brotherhood. It's
Yes.
beyond
Right.
juicing. You're creating a culture.
Right. More than a brotherhood, we're a family because we don't like saying brother because it's kind of like only guys focused.
Right?
Okay.
Thank you.
You're like our
Thank you.
female
Thank you.
juicers.
Right?
Yeah.
I'm all about that.
We're a family,
But
though,
I mean,
definitely.
so I don't really drink alcohol. I don't really like do much other than I'm a workaholic in my life. But coffee is my drug
Yeah,
of
me
choice.
too.
So I gotta say, like, how can you not bond? Like working together, drinking coffee all day. But okay, so what sets? I mean, obviously you guys have a culture, you have
Right.
an environment, you have a family. What is the belief? Like if there's a belief system behind Joe?
What our belief is we want to make business savvy young adults who necessarily don't want to go maybe the college route or they don't necessarily have the means to go the college route. So like inner city kids or kids that have just struggled in life, maybe like a foster care kid or something like that. We want to bring them an opportunity where they can grow as not only an individual, but as in a business environment.
love
So
that.
we don't look at age as a factor when it comes to who we look at as managers.
Thank you. Another one.
Sam, I'm curious, how did it make you grow personally?
Me personally, coming from a military background, I had kind of a strict mindset towards life and an outlook that was like a little bit more raw because I spent 6 years in the military. But they just really introduced like what it is to be a family and like I just don't know how to explain it, but they just have such a family oriented.
Wow.
Like just with everything, like I could have a bad day and like my regional manager will come in and he'll be the guy that'll be like to lift me up. And I know that he's more stressed out than me. His name is Frederick, by the way. I just want to say hi, Fred.
Morning, Fred. What I also find very interesting about the culture that is Joe and the Juice is that there's a casting involved. There's a show off.
right.
You even said it was called scouting.
Yes.
Wow,
so
right?
what we do is we don't necessarily like the business model of having people send in their resumes and then we cipher through a bunch of papers.
That's so 1999.
Yeah, we can't see who the person is. We can't see what they're passionate about. We can't see what their niches are, what they're like, what they want to do with their life. So what we do is we send out normal clothes because we don't have uniforms, individuals in our company, and we go out in the streets and we look and we talk to people about their passions.
Oh,
we talk to
cool.
them about what they want to do with their lives, and if they fit into what we're trying to do, then we try to bring them on board as fast as possible.
That's awesome.
And you are passionate about the juice you create. Tell us what this special
So this one is called the Guardian, and what it is it's carrot, sea buckthorn, and
You
pineapple.
lost me at sea buckthorn. What
You
is
had
a
me at juice. I have no idea.
Yeah, what is a sea
A
buckthorn?
sea buckthorn is a berry native to Denmark, and it's high in vitamin C. So it's like if you're sick, this would be a great juice
This
for
one's
you.
so good.
But because it's high in vitamin C, it has a bit of a sour consistency.
Ooh, I love it.
Yeah, it's really good. I
And
always
this
like
one?
it because the colors. So this is the Prince of Green, and this is the Stress Down. This one is
What were you
strawberry.
trying to say? I didn't know.
That's funny.
He's intuitive too, okay?
Yes,
He's
yes.
psychic, okay?
So this Stress Down is apple, ginger, and strawberries. And what it is the ginger is supposed to help your digestion through the day, and then the
I like
apple's
the ginger. The
like
ginger's
a nice
doing it.
fruit energy boost.
I really love it.
If you're someone like me that's trying to kick coffee, then ginger and apple
Right.
and like a high fruit
I'm keeping mine
consistency will give you
down
that
to
energy.
like I'm trying to have like just coffee just in the morning and maybe one after, you know, early evening or something like that.
And
That's
if
like
you're-
cutting down.
If you're like me, you just double fist all day. Here's your dough, here's your juice. Good morning, La La Land.
So where can people find? Obviously, they can find you here.
Right, on Melrose.
Mm-hmm.
We have locations going up on San Vicente Boulevard. We're going to have a Pasadena location.
Oh, cool.
On South Lake, and we're going to be on 3rd Street and in Abbot Kinney. So all around
Right.
really the Santa Monica area
It's so great.
to start off.
So this is all what we love about LA because people just look at it like it's this la kind of hip, weird people, right? And these are the stories that we love. We love that it's actually people are fulfilling their dreams. They're actually creating new companies and ways of doing things that the whole world's looking at. So we're so happy that you're here.
Yeah,
Yeah.
really, really glad to be here.
Celebrating the community and contributing to it. We're really excited to feature the owner and founder of Joe and the Juice, Casper, in the next issue of Focus Magazine as well.
Right? So next Focus Magazine, we will have them featured in there, and we have to go to our second segment.
Oh.
So we just want to say thank you so much
problem.
for your
It's nice seeing you
time.
guys. Nice
We're
meeting you.
loving the coffee,
see you.
Enjoy your,
and we're
healthy
looking
juices.
forward to many more mornings with some coffee
Joe
with you
and the
guys,
Juice.
right?
And my afternoon. I'll see you
Yeah.
there at 11 o'clock.
Right? So stay tuned, you guys, as we have our beloved Rob Mack back in the house for 7 Habits of Happy People. So stay tuned, you guys. We'll be right back. Dr. Aaron.
I'm Rob Mack.
And I'm Jasmine Royer. Monday through Friday, we are going to be streaming to you live, Los Angeles.
America's first live streaming daily talk show.
At 9 a.m. Pacific time on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube.
And we have a sexy show for you today.
We have got Will, Leanne, and Gabe in the house. Let's go back there. Hi!
Talked to 4 beautiful, intelligent, conscious women. Clearly, I was miserable the entire time.
She has a TV show similar to your guys.
Ellen.
Yes!
Yes!
The little peck. Come on.
I feel so bad for Jess.
We're live too, for the people viewing.
For the people.
M-I-C-K-E-Y-M-O-U-S-E Club Mickey Mouse on Good Morning
La La Land.
We are streaming to you live Monday through Friday on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. Happy holidays.
It's gonna be a good
Good morning, La La Land.
5, 6, 7, 8. We are the Mouseketeers and we proudly wear our ears. We mousin', we mousin', M-I-C-K-E-Y-M-O-U-S-E Club Mickey Mouse. Good morning, La La Land.
Back to Good Morning La La Land. and this is all about 7 habits of happy people. I want to know about this. You got to tell me all about that.
I know. Well, we've got the expert, Maria Felipe,
We
in the
do.
back, so we're going to talk to her about it.
And you're an expert.
I am an
Yeah.
expert. That's what we
Excited
call
about this book that we're
Live
going to
Your
find
Happy
all about.
in Spanish
right?
and English. Yeah, it's
Yep.
amazing.
So give us a rundown. We pulled an article.
Yes.
It's what is the article from?
The article is originally from Pursuit of Happiness organization.
Bringing the science of happiness to life. So this is some science backing around the 7 habits.
Yeah. So there's a program at University of Pennsylvania actually that's focused on applied positive psychology, which is like a 15-year-old science that's all about how to live your happiest life ever, right? And so they study the
There's
happiest people in the
actually
world.
a science behind that.
There is actually a science behind it, and I have a degree in it. so
I'm going to play a little
expensive
bit.
degree.
I'm going to play a little bit of the devil's
Thank
advocate
you for
on
that
this
forever.
because as a doctor of divinity, of course, like I read through the 7, and we'll talk about the 7.
Yeah.
And I agree with it, but I just want to say that I have a little bit of a hard time with the word pursuit of happiness.
Yeah.
In that I believe that there's a law that's what we resist persists.
Yes.
So if I only want to be happy, then I'm going to resist when I'm not feeling happy,
Yeah.
and in that resistance, I'm going to feel it's going to persist.
I don't.
So I'm always about pursuit of fulfillment.
Yeah.
But I get that it's like it kind of.
Or even I think there's another way of saying it too, which is simply just tapping into the happiness already inside of you, or tapping into the fulfillment already inside of you. I think you're absolutely right. When you pursue or chase happiness, you're always putting it out ahead of you, outside of you, in the future. It doesn't exist in any of
Right,
those places. It's something
right,
that's
right,
always accessible now inside yourself.
I have a question for you,
Yeah,
Rob,
lay
because
it
so
on
many
me.
people have said, where do you see yourself in 5 years?
Yes.
What do you want for yourself next year, 5 years, 10 years? And I always say, I want to be happy.
Love that. Yeah, you and John Lennon. Yeah, we did the same thing. Yeah.
You
So
know, Erin,
deep.
but maybe to your point that that's being fulfilled, but I do feel like I am on a constant pursuit of that.
Yeah.
Not that I'm not satisfied or grateful for where I'm at now,
Yeah.
but for me, there's this expectation of the goals that I have for myself down the line
Yeah.
will inevitably give me that happiness.
Yeah, that's a
Am
little
I
bit
off
of
on that?
Yeah, for sure. You are. Sorry. Yeah. I love you very much, and yes, and I know that from personal experience. We know that from science. That generally, no matter what we accomplish, achieve, or acquire, we're not happier for it. Now, if you live below a level of subsistence where you can't pay your bills and you can't eat, you don't have shelter, it matters very much, that additional dollar or the additional achievement. But yeah, for the most part, things don't make us happy. Future doesn't make us happy. We make ourselves happy.
Damn.
I'm breaking it down
I need
right
some
now.
more
Stay
coffee.
tuned. Stay tuned.
So let's hear the 7. We got to
There's
get
7
seven.
habits
Yeah.
of happy people.
Yeah.
Yep.
So one, I think, which is the most important for me personally, is some kind of spiritual path or some kind of spiritual endeavor, some kind of spiritual pursuit. Now, that's different for everybody. And the way I would define spirituality in that context is a connection to something larger than yourself.
Or your higher self.
Or your higher self, exactly. So that's a pretty profound one. For lots of folks, it's just the community, the spiritual community itself.
Can be anything.
Yeah, that provides
right?
a little bit of the happiness boost.
This
that-
juice is making me feel spiritual.
Is it?
Right?
What's
Yeah.
in your juice? You got something special in
Some
there.
kind of special berry from
Yeah.
Denmark,
Here's a
apparently.
list
Wow.
if you're
Yeah.
I'm
the
next.
article.
Oh, wait, there's so many.
Right?
So, yeah. I mean, go ahead.
No, so the number one, the relationship. So number 1 was the relationships express your heart, and it reminds me of that Harvard study, that 75-year study of
Yes.
of that study where they found that it came down to good relationships was the number 1.
Yeah, that's such a good
principle
point.
of
George
that.
Valiant did a study, Harvard, right? And he followed men over the course of decades, and he basically discovered that the quality of your relationships is a reflection of how happy you are, right? And so it's not about having a lot of relationships.
I love you guys. That's
Yeah?
what I know.
That's why you're so
I'm
happy,
very
right?
happy, okay?
It's because of Jez and I. Yeah, it's our presence.
And the coffee.
And the coffee
So, you
helps.
know, yeah, right?
So relationships are very important. And one thing to remember about relationships too, and we're going to talk to Maria about this as well, is that one of the best things you can do in terms of your happiness relationship is focus on the very best in the other person. So the best relationships consist of 2 happy people who are single and happy first, right? And then they're able to see the best of it within each other, despite what the other may be showing them. So it's this
Right.
positive illusion effect. It's very powerful.
Yeah, so this list of 7 gets into like a list of like 1,000
it's 1,000
things you
things.
gotta do.
Yeah. Well, number 2 is really interesting. So you mentioned acts of kindness and cultivating kindness.
Yeah. So it's interesting because that relationship works both ways. So the happier you are, the more charitable and kind you tend to be. So you find people in the street, the mean people tend to be very unhappy inside. But it also works the other way, that when you're kind to people, it tends to increase your happiness. So when you're charitable, when you give blood, when you do things that are nice for other people,
Right.
it actually boosts your happiness. So it's a positive upward
Like
spiral.
attracts like.
That's right, exactly.
So number 1 was relationships. Number 2 is acts of kindness. Number 3 is exercise.
Right, so we all know that. 30 minutes a day is the equivalent to taking anti-anxiety or
wow,
antidepressant.
right?
Is it
right?
really?
Yeah, literally. It's like as profound as as taking Prozac. So
There's
you,
no
you definitely want to
question.
exercise if you can. 30 minutes, you don't have to go crazy.
Yep. Says exercise and well-being, keep moving and eat well. And then number 4 is flow. I'm all about that.
Flowing, huh? You got a little freestyle? Let's hear the freestyle.
Definitely feeling the
How
flow.
are you
Rob's
feeling?
always about being in the flow.
I am about being in the flow.
He is. I think that's one of his greatest masteries, for sure. He's kind
I
of like,
appreciate that.
whatever.
But you guys are very
you
much
can
like
come
that
to
too.
me. You know?
Okay, so if you're just tuning in for the
Yeah.
first time at Good Morning La La Land, what do you mean the flow?
Yeah.
Like
so
the
flow,
boob falling out. It's
that
not
can help people get in the
flowing so
flow,
much.
I'm sure. It's about being in the zone. So as an athlete, you know, if you're a basketball player, you can hit 13 shots in a row without thinking, without blinking. It just comes so naturally and so easily to you. Or if you're a writer, you just have a flow of creative ideas. Or whatever you do, you can be in a spot, this sweet spot, where life shows up in very effortless, easy, and enjoyable ways for you. And it's an energetic kind of thing.
So for the moments when you're out of the flow, because I
Yeah.
certainly have them, and you're like, man, this is like hitting every red light for me in my
Yeah,
life right
talk
now.
about that.
How do you get yourself back in that? Like, is there a switch you can flip?
Yeah. Well, so in LA, you just wait for the holidays and you get all green lights. All green lights. But yeah, I mean, it's different for everybody. It's interesting because I know this and this is how easy it is. I know this 4-year-old girl, a friend of mine, her daughter, basically read like a happiness book and came up with this idea to like create a list of happiness, like things that cause her to feel happy easily and effortlessly. Oh, I like chocolate. I like playing with my Barbies.
I like juice.
I like juice. So she created a list, and whenever she's not feeling the flow, she goes to her list, picks something off the list, and does it.
Yeah.
So you just want to have.
It's also understanding your genius. Like there's personality tests. Like I'm not a detail person, so if I do a lot of details, I'm not in the flow.
Yes.
I'm more of a visionary, and so I have to stay up in the creative factor.
Yes.
And knowing where you have to know yourself to know where your flow is, right?
You make a great point because scientifically, the way we describe flow is it's that place where the challenge at hand slightly exceeds your skill or ability to meet that challenge, right? So if you can kind of think of it that way. Now it helps if you're doing something you enjoy, you know. So if you're doing something
Right.
you hate and you're just not very skillful.
You're like, I'm happy doing
Yes,
this crappy
it's
thing.
not gonna work.
Okay, so number 5 was what you said, spiritual engagement and meaning. Discover
Yes.
meaning. We know that meaning's so important.
Yes.
What's someone said it great one time. They said, you have to have a cold shower.
Hmm.
Like, meaning that what's going to get you out of bed even when you don't feel like it? Like, what's going to be
Cold
the
shower
meaning?
is not
that,
ever going to get me out of bed.
What's going to
Depends
be
who's
that?
in that
But
cold
what's
shower,
that going to like be that wakes you up
rapid.
each day? That's like, okay, forget it. I don't feel that great, or I'm not that into it. But you go, oh yeah, I this meaning, like a purpose in your life.
I absolutely love that, and I think it's so worth thinking about. You and I have talked about that too, Jessalyn. Like, why do you wake up in the morning? Like, why do you live? Like, why wake up? Why get out of bed? Why
Or
go to
coffee.
work? Why pay the bills? Yeah, it certainly helps, right?
It certainly helps. Well, number 6, you mentioned it being strengths and virtues, discovering and using your personal strengths. So I suppose, Erin, that's like understanding
Yeah,
your genius.
had that wrong one. That was another one.
Totally.
Right?
No, it's
Yeah.
good. No, you're
Your
right.
strengths and virtues. Yeah, I definitely know my weaknesses, and I think that it's good to go ask your friends and people, what are my strengths? What are my weaknesses? And it's not like you have to get great at your weaknesses. Sometimes you delegate your weaknesses.
No, totally. In fact, that's the best advice ever.
Right?
Seriously, the most extraordinary companies and individuals, they outsource, delegate, reduce, or eliminate their weaknesses, and they focus exclusively on their strengths.
I do that with laundry. I'm like, yeah, I'm sorry, I
It's a
mix the
good place to
colors.
start.
I can't do it. Someone else.
Maria later in the show is even going to tell us how to get out of our own way.
Oh, yeah.
Or
She
get
goes
out of
deep.
like the laundry
Well,
feeling, right? Yeah.
There's an art to it, let me tell you.
And-
Banishing fear and encountering love.
It's so interesting because Maria's a good example of that, and I think I know, I'm sure we've all had a little bit of a challenge, like deciding what you want to do with your life. I think, Jez, you were pretty clear at like a young age, but most of us have had a little challenge with that. And Maria's done so many different things over the course of her life. And now she's in a place where she's focusing, sort of on happiness, on the spiritual path. And I'd be interested to ask her about that journey, because I think sometimes it's hard to both identify your strengths and then focus on just a couple.
Right.
Well, and that leads us perfectly to the 7th habit, which is having a positive mindset, remaining optimistic, mindful, and full of gratitude.
You got to focus on the sunny side of the road.
That's right.
So on that note, you guys, we have to sign off on this segment because we have 2 amazing guests coming up, incredible guests. So
Stay tuned. We are going to go back in the studio and do a year in review, 2017 highlights with Ken LaCourte of the LaCourte Report when we come back.
Stay tuned.
This is Jack. His mother didn't save his childhood artwork.
She just threw it all away like it was garbage.
If only his mother had Archive.
Archive is the
entire line with buriti, maracuya, moringa, and argan. So you have the buriti, which is the tree of life. You have the argan, which is literally liquid gold. You have the maracuya, which is the richest source of vitamin C. And you have the moringa, which is the richest superfood in the world. So I've combined all these yummy ingredients from Mother Nature and delivered them straight to you, straight to your strands, straight to your face. In all my products, that's the base of it. And the most important thing is that everything is made with love right here at home in USA, straight for you.
And the reason they book me and keep me is because it's more than just training. It's just authentic.
And so I think that's one thing I realized that I had my whole life was will. I'm so determined to get to where I want to go. I'm not going to let nothing stop me, not even myself. Right? And I try to tell my clients and people, it's all a mindset. You know, you got to really want it. I said, you can change anything, but before you change anything, you got to change it in your mind first. Just because I always say if it doesn't challenge you, it doesn't change you.
I'm Eden Sassoon, and I own 2 Pilates studios, Eden by Eden Sassoon Pilates. And to be quite honest, I hate socks. But my girlfriend Sally just created a line, Mantra Socks. And to me, at Pilates, you cannot get on my machine without socks. But now, you can get on my machine with the intention. Today, I have Be Love. To me, that means a lot. But also, when you buy a pair of these socks, 1 pair gets donated to a homeless shelter. And that is something, that's really what matters, to be quite honest. It's not just about the sock. It's about the intention. It's about what you're giving back and how you're paying it forward. And so for that, Sally, I thank you. And I love Mantra Socks.
Hi guys, I'm Joyce Gerard and I support my beautiful friend Sally with her Mantra Socks. Look how cute they are. Be Loved is my favorite. So go get them. Run and get them on Amazon.com.
Welcome back to Good Morning La La Land. We are so honored to have Ken LaCourte here today. Welcome, Ken.
Thank you.
How are you?
Good.
So. So I'm so happy because I got your newsletter today,
right,
which is really an overview of 2017, and I was blown away with how great and how broken down it really was.
So that's just kind of what we're doing. So we're launching a product in probably about 3 or 4 months, which is going to be kind of a hybrid between a news entity and if you created Facebook from scratch to deliver news. In other words, Facebook Facebook is right now the biggest deliverer of news in the country, even though they don't have a journalist, they don't have a reporter, they don't have editors. They've created a great platform to let people come together.
But my question is it real news?
I think most of it is, and that's the difference. Is Facebook was really created to let you see your old girlfriend and watch her photos, or see your friends, or see your cousins out on vacation or whatnot.
I thought it was just for likes. What is
we like all those things. Exactly. And it's become so hugely popular that it does everything. I mean, people get news there. People get all, it's become, almost a fabric of life. But for delivering a pure news product, that's a really, really good question, because anybody can pop a news story up. Oh, here's something from whatever.com. I mean, if I said, oh, I just got something from usinvestigativejournalism.com, nobody would have any idea if that was a serious organization or if it was some schmo with a WordPress page that looks great. And that's part of the problem with journalism in America. And so we have some tweaks on it in the sense that we'll have on this product news from everywhere, from NBC and CNN and Fox and all of that, as well as some of our own original journalism that we'll do. But we'll also have a team of editors who bring that stuff in, so we can keep out the fake, the crazy bias, the you know, you can do a lot of different things like that. And unlike a news But you know, but one of the cool things about Facebook or any of these kind of news platforms is you might have such a radically different concept of what you find interesting in news versus you. I mean, I know some people who just love to get into the politics world and the economic numbers and this and that, and I know other people who are like, I don't want any of that, and I want, you know, I want the lighter fare, or I want entertainment news. And so when you're pulling it in from hundreds and hundreds of sources, you can give people kind of a little bit more of what they're looking for.
So you're offering news that's almost like tailored to what somebody might be looking for or interested in?
You know, you always try to, you know, at a Fox when you're running, you know, we get 1 billion page views a month on our
Billion.
yeah, it was a lot.
Mind blowing.
So every morning though, you try to sit down and say, okay, let's make this smorgasbord look good. Okay, so we have to have the important news here, and then we have to have sports down here, and we have to have this there. This is a little bit different in the sense that it will be tailored per person. So we can literally track, and Facebook does that. I mean, that's why people get so addicted to Facebook.
Yeah.
Yes.
I'm
Exactly.
curious.
So
how
it's
do you-
matchmaking.
But you want what, you know, you want the things you want, but there's also stuff that's like, even though you didn't know that you wanted to hear about an explosion in Tempe, you also want to hear about that too. So it's
How do you want your news?
Asking a hard-hitting question. Look at Jessica.
Exactly.
It's all that
I mean,
coffee.
you know, I have particular tastes. I mean, I liked following the DC politics things. That's my sport. Sports, can't stand. I just have no interest in sports. Didn't get into my genes. When the players were kneeling on the field, that was the only time I cared about football this year, just because that was then a political issue.
I totally get you. Just totally get you.
But you know, my brother-in-law's got, you know, he goes to work with his Rams shirt on. So I want it to be tailored to me. Look, we've got a couple issues going on. One is the fakeness of news going on, and the other, and this is really bad, is just how the major media has become so biased and in their political camps. I mean, if you go to CNN, you know, an average, not crazily political person will look at CNN and it looks like the Democratic National Convention. I mean, you can't, I mean, it's just like they spend all day thumping Trump over the head. You go to Fox News and you don't see that. They're still thumping Hillary more than they're thumping Trump. So part of it is I don't want to dive too much into a biased world. I want to see a little bit, but I don't want it to be so focused on just the things that I want. I want to see things that I might not agree with, or things that I might not have heard otherwise. The other issue is it's dumb. There's just a lot of dumb. I mean, so find myself out of a job, looking at doing the last kind of big business thing in my life, and took a lot of time saying, one of the big questions that I had was, how did we get from the days of yellow journalism in the late 1800s, early 1900s, where, you know, we all saw that and they were hawking all this stuff.
What do you mean yellow journalism?
So yellow journalism was a phrase that was brought up. It was kind of among the newspapers in the Hearst days. This is the late 1800s, early 1900s. There were a lot of newspapers around, and they all kind of got into this making up news, hardcore, kind of like what it is now, what it's become in the last year. It's known as kind of like the worst days of journalism, because they would just often just overplay things beyond a point of ridiculousness. And I said, how did we get from that to back like when I grew up? It was the LA Times, and yeah, they had their political biases and whatnot, but you believed them. They weren't making things up. And a lot of it, what it came down to, and I figured out, was how news is distributed and what are the economic incentives behind it. So in 1880, the way that you sold the newspapers, you had a kid on the corner with the newspapers themselves screaming out the headlines. Whoever had the most salacious headline sold the most amount of newspapers. There was a lot of that. And so that actually didn't really start to change around until the early 1900s, and a lot of it was a guy named Adolph Oakes, who just bought a fledgling New York Times. And they said, we're going the opposite way. And they did serious journalism. They stopped doing that, and people started to gravitate towards that. The other aspect was people started moving to the suburbs and buying subscriptions. Well, once I have you as a subscriber, I don't have to sell that hard. So you flash forward now to now, with Facebook and social media being the primary driver of news, not only does every newspaper have to compete, every single headline competes. And so that's why when you look at something, you have a hard time believing those headlines because they're just made to make you click. And whether it's clickbait, whether it's appealing super hard to your political biases, or in some instances, and the fake news guys, the only reason why fake news, the real fake news, like really fake news, made stuff up, is because they could make enough money on Facebook. Because if they said Melania's pregnant, people click on that, and they've got their penny at that point. They already, when you went to the page, just realized, oh, okay, you got me. They already made their penny, and if they could do that enough on Facebook, they could make money.
So do you see a shift there then in terms of the psychology of the population, where folks are much more interested in less of the sort of dramatized fake news and more interested in getting sort of the facts and more interested in traditional journalism?
I don't know. That's a really good question, because a lot of times we all say we want certain things.
Totally.
We say, I wish I could have a big salad for dinner. And
you
then
don't mean that at all.
Yeah, and then all of a sudden there's a fried cheeseburger on there. I think that the average person now realizes that there is a crazy ideological divide, that they're not getting the full story when they go to their silo. I think that there's an unease amongst many people because they don't know what's real. I was speaking at a conference, and this gal comes. She's 22 years old. She's a college student. She's bright, and she said, I click around and I see things. How do I know who to trust?
Wow.
And I basically said, well, when you've lived 20 years, you realize that, okay, the American Spectator is coming from this kind of a thing, or should I trust them or not? But living an extra 20 years was a really crappy answer to that. And it really bothered me by the fact that you've got people who want it. So I think that most people are still kind of going to that stuff, but I think that it's, and I wouldn't say the ship's starting to turn, but I think that a lot of people are for the first time saying, I'm uncomfortable about it.
And do you think that
and I think there's a market there.
That's encouraging.
Is a market, in America, or is this something that's happening worldwide?
That's a good question. I think it's happening worldwide, but I haven't traveled in the last year, so I don't know. I'm mainly enmeshed in American. I don't know the answer to that.
So the goal is this.
Probably though, because I would assume that the Facebook Brazil is probably the biggest purveyor of news in Brazil. But
so the goal is to have a place like Facebook. I can come on, I can go, okay.
Where that everything's been, if not vetted story for story, but it's been pulled in by smart people.
Okay.
That we've got a network of contributors who will also say, hey, here's why this story is important, or here's, so the top comment is actually going to be by somebody who knows something, instead of your crazy Uncle Fred, who is high on your feed because you liked his pictures at his daughter's wedding. And then you'll have a little bit of ability to say, hey, give me more or less of certain types of things. Now, part of that will be watching you to see what you click on, just like Facebook does. And
so we only have a few more minutes, but I want to know, because I got your report today on looking back on 2017.
Right.
What do you think in 2018, what do you think is going to be the greatest news that if you could think
That's the fun thing about news, though. We don't know what's going to happen.
So,
so I don't know is the short answer to that.
What are you keeping your eye on the most? Put it that way.
I mean, look, the Trump thing has been the most interesting presidential first year we've had in a long time. We had all kind of assumed that would calm down a little bit, and it certainly hasn't showed any nod towards that. So the politics will be interesting.
I think what Erin is asking is, should she buy or sell her cryptocurrency or Bitcoin? That's what she's really asking. Let's be honest.
That's a huge story and a massive conversation happening all over.
It's going from a very selfish place.
Crypto goes up, crypto goes down. I actually think it's a smart thing to get 5% of your net worth if you want to, and put a little bit into Bitcoin, a little bit into Ethereum, and a little bit some there, and then put it in a sock and come back in a year. But you'll freak yourself out if you go, because it's going to double and it's going to go to 10%. I mean, it's going to fly all over. But I think that more people are going to put money into that this year, into a closed system, and therefore it'll be worth it.
Great advice. Great. So
that's the only real prediction I have.
I'm really, really impressed with your work. Beautifully done. And I'm going to be looking for you, because we have to research all the time. I don't know where to go, and there's so many different.
Well, we've started off with the morning. So if you go to the court report, excuse me. That's what we call the newsletter. If you go to lacourtenews.com, it talks a little bit about what we're doing, and it can sign you up for that morning email, which is basically a 2-minute brief of if you didn't jump into the news all day, and we try to keep it in the middle and try to keep it.
Since the first day I met you, Ken, I subscribed, and I wake up with it Monday through Friday, and I must say I truly enjoy it. I feel more well-versed in what's happening. I feel like it's completely unbiased. It's a very good, just general understanding of topics that are very relevant to what's happening in American society right now. Thank you for that. I really do appreciate it.
So we'd like you to do one just in LA so that we can just get
someday. And you don't have to do any research in the morning. You can just have it.
So we have to take a break, and we are going to be coming back. Do you want to introduce Maria? Tell us a little bit about what we get to.
Yes, we have Maria Felipe coming in. She's part of the New World Library family. It's part of my publishing family there. She has done everything in her life. She's been an actress, she's a boxing announcer for a while, a TV host, and now she's got a great book called Live Your Happy. It's all about how to love your life and love yourself. So we're going to talk to her when we come back.
Yep. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it, buddy.
See you soon.
Cheers. Thank you.
I'm Dr. Aaron.
I'm Rob Mack.
And I'm Jasmine Royer. Monday through Friday, we are going to be streaming to you live, Los Angeles.
America's first live streaming daily talk show.
At 9 a.m. Pacific time on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube.
And we have a sexy show for you today.
We have got Will, Leanne, and Gabe in the house. Let's go back there. Hi!
Talked to 4 beautiful, intelligent, conscious women. Clearly, I was miserable the entire time.
She has a TV show similar to your guys.
Ellen.
Yes!
Yes!
Praise the little peck, come on.
I feel so bad for Jess.
We're live for the people viewing.
For the people.
Wow!
MICKEYMOUSC Club Mickey Mouse on Good Morning La La Land.
We are streaming to you live Monday through Friday on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. Happy holidays.
It's going to be a good
morning, La La Land.
5, 6, 7, 8. We are the Mouseketeers, and we proudly wear our ears. We mousin', we mousin', MICKEYMOUSC Club Mickey Mouse. Good morning.